Have you ever noticed how difficult life can be sometimes? And how much easier it would be if we could find somebody who could come along and would tell us exactly what we needed to do. And they would have the wisdom to tell us the right thing to do. Well, fortunately, folk tales are filled with such people. Follow me. There was a young man who had a family he adored, but a job he despised. It seemed as if no matter how hard he worked, it was never good enough. His boss was never satisfied, and even though he gave his job everything he had, it was still no good. And he found himself in the mornings dragging his feet, dreading the day ahead of him. Until finally his wife turned to him and said, "You need to come to a decision. Either leave the job you have or stick with it. But please make up your mind. It is the indecision, it is the doubt that is killing you." And he came to hear about a wise woman who lived at the top of a great mountain. He heard that this wise woman had a special talent for solving some of life's most troublesome problems. And so eventually, when he couldn't take it anymore, he headed out, began to walk the twisting, turning path all the way to the very top, to seek the wisdom of this woman. And as he walked on the path, he came across another young man about the same age, and they began to talk as they walked up the mountain path. As they talked, they both discovered that they shared the same problem. And so by the time they reached the top of the mountain, they had already decided that they might as well go and see the wise woman together. We have the same problems, we might as well get the same answer. And so they headed towards a ramshackled wooden hut where the wise woman sat outside weaving. And she looked up as they approached, and she smiled a knowing smile. They sat in front of her and explained to her how they detested their jobs, how every morning they had to drag themselves out of bed, filled with dread at what they would have to face. But they had families to support, and they couldn't just pack in their job. They needed money. And so they asked of the wise woman what they should do. Should they leave their jobs or should they stay in their jobs? They really didn't know what to do. She closed her eyes and began to meditate. She meditated a good long while. And then when she had finished, she looked them up and down and she said, "Only a bowl of rice." They were confused. What on earth did she mean? "We don't understand," they said. And the wise woman, not used to having to repeat herself, scowled as she said, "Only a bowl of rice." And as she resumed her weaving, they realized that was all they were going to get. So they thanked her, put a few coins in her pot, and they began to walk back down the mountain. It was confusing, made no sense. A bowl of rice. How did that have anything to do with their problem? And they thought and they thought and they talked and they talked and they walked and they walked. And by the time they got to the bottom, they had come to a decision, a conclusion. They had agreed that what she meant was that a bowl of rice is a basic food. It is a staple. And so what she must have meant was that a job is only there to put food on the table. Simple. Plain and simple. A job is there to put food on the table. Of course, it was obvious. And now, happy that they had gained the wisdom of the woman, they went their separate ways. One of the young men, when he got home, he slept and then went into work the next day, handed in his notice, packed in his job. And he took up a new career. He became a farmer. He bought some land, bought some seeds, and, well, to cut a long story short, he became really successful. The other young man, when he went home, he slept, he went into work, but he didn't hand in his notice. He put his head down and he carried on working. And as the weeks became months and the months became years, he was promoted through the ranks until finally he became the chief exec of the company. And whether it was destiny or maybe just luck, the paths of these two men crossed again. And when they saw each other, they began talking about everything they had done since they last met. And the farmer furrowed his brow and said, "I don't understand. You kept your job. You didn't resign." "Well, no," said the chief exec. "Isn't it obvious? Once I understood that a job was only there to put food on the table, well then all of the stress, the anxiety, the hurt that I was feeling, it vanished. It didn't matter anymore. And then work got easier and, well, now I'm a success. But I don't understand why you became a farmer." "Well, isn't it obvious?" said the farmer. "When I realized that a job was only there to put food on the table, I realized there is more to life. A job should be fulfilling. And so I took up farming, returned to the land, and I love it and I'm good at it." But now the two men were really confused. They had both received the same advice, and yet they had both done different things. Which of them had trodden the right path? There was only one thing for it: to return to the wise woman on the mountain. As they approached once more, she smiled and nodded knowingly. And they said to her, "Years ago we came to see you, needing your wisdom. You told us a bowl of rice. And yet the two of us have done completely different things based on your advice. And we are confused. Please, explain to us the wisdom in the bowl of rice." And the wise woman smiled and she said, "Do you still dislike your work?" "No," they said. "We love our work." "Then what is your problem? We need to know which of us was right." "The wisdom was not in the bowl of rice," she said. "The wisdom was in giving you a difference of thought."